Good, feel really good. Feel more confident than I had done beforehand. Ironically, I think we filmed 3 or 4 months before the Arctic and I had pneumonia, and now I've got COVID, I think. So there was a nice little window of opportunity to run through the Arctic in the middle there. I'm feeling good though, mate. Feel real good. Feel strong. Yeah, I've learned that I need to learn something. I need to learn to control the chatter a little bit more. I think that the nights leading up to it, even the last time when we were filming, the anxiousness and the anticipation and all the rest of it, that lack of confidence maybe it's been a long time since I did something that hard, but all that built up to kind of almost overwhelm me, I think. And I could have punted it the night before, right up to in the teepee the night before. Not an experience I embraced because for the most part I was just worried about it, So I think I need to learn a little bit about managing my arousal state, and that's useful to know, I suppose. Day one, retrospectively, I think I could have opened up a little bit more. Purposely kept my foot on the brakes a little bit. There were sections we could have ran, and the front runners did run, and I sat back on it on purpose. But I don't think I needed to. I think now looking back on it, I could have gone a little bit harder and really push myself. But frankly, that wasn't what I was there for. I didn't want to win it. I just wanted to get through it and enjoy it and see what it was like and face the challenge. But like I say, looking back on it, I think the nerves had taken over a little bit, and I sat on the brakes a little bit hard all day. That said, that first day was beautiful. We were immersed into a brand new environment where we crossed some of these massive, vast frozen lakes, and never been anywhere like it in my life. So seeing that, I'll never forget. But from a performance perspective, I could have kicked on a little bit harder, I think. Day two, nothing could have helped us in day two. Day two was wild, mate. So day two was the day we were to go over Mount Kabla. So each day broke down into sections. There was checkpoints where the race management team and the Sami would meet us just to see that we were still alive. And we went into the first checkpoint and were warned that as we were going into the mountain itself, we were about to face some really tough conditions. So I think at that point it was minus 25, 30 mile an hour winds and spin drifts and all the rest of it. So the ability to see was going to be hampered quite hard, and it's going to be cold and difficult terrain. And as we got up the mountain, it just got worse and worse. So the visibility was maybe a few meters at one point, yet the markers to actually get over that mountain, which exists all the time, but they're about 10-15 meters apart. So what happened was, because people couldn't see, they were then getting lost within meters. Once your bearing's gone by just a degree, they were moving off course and not able to find their way back. So some people essentially got lost within a small area, but lost all the same. Some people, in trying to correct that, ended up colder than they needed to be, so had hypothermia. And then there was a few people with injuries, essentially like frostbite, and I know a couple of people have lost some bits of fingers and toes and whatnot since. I had a chat with snow blindness. But we signed up for it, mate. We signed up for it. We knew what was going to happen. Those people were safe all the time. Well, that doesn't sound very safe, but they were safe all the time because the support team were on them. If they were in actual trouble or they could see them spinning in circles and all the rest of it, they could get on them within a matter of 15-20 minutes. And they did do. So everybody that was in any peril was pulled out of that peril quite fast. Without that support team being as active and reactive as they were, they would have been in a lot of trouble. Day two was by far the hardest. There was that climb in the middle, all the weather conditions. I ended up hooking up with a guy called Robbie, Dutch guy, who we managed each other through that course. I think without having the wherewithal to work as a partnership, just for those few hours. It took about 3 hours or so to get over that climb. In normal conditions, that would have been something you'd have done in 45 minutes, I think, but it was about 3 hours. But we kind of buddied up and went a certain distance and matched each other and went that distance, and we always knew where the way back was, so we were able to get through the worst of it that way. But I think having got through that, what was interesting actually going into day three, we were told if we got through day two, then the hardest physical part was behind us. It's always going to be hard, but the hardest physical part was behind us, and the rest was going to be psychological. For me, I didn't cast aside that advice, but I did think that there was a good bit of poetic license going on there from Chris. God bless Chris. what an amazing man. But he was right. He was right. Once we got through day 2, nothing else was going to compare to that from a physical perspective. Although we were tiring, so you're going to get more tired, so anything else becomes harder and harder. But it became psychological because we had day 3 was like vast fields of ice, like lakes, and you're just on this lake. And as you move away from the checkpoint and look back again, it didn't feel like you'd gotten anywhere. Yet the distance to go didn't seem to get any closer, so it was just like being on a constant conveyor belt of ice. So the only way I could do that was I used my watch and broke up my movement by 15-minute blocks, and within those 15-minute blocks gave myself jobs to do. So every 15 minutes I'd have just like a drink to have, or check your pack, or tighten this, or whatever. But each time I had that job to do, I'd killed off 15 minutes. But if I thought about the fact that I had to get over there, there's every chance that I just thought, oh, forget it, this is just becoming a nightmare. Or at least gotten caught up in kind of that cycle of anxiety again, that this is just never going to end. But breaking it down in little 15-minute chunks was perfect. That was it for the last 2 days. So day 1, day 2 were kind of mountainous. Day 2 certainly a mountain, and all that drama that went on there. And day 3 and 4 were ice lakes. You know, once this was I mean, it was stunning, absolutely beautiful. And that's something that's probably worth pointing out, is that, again, the organisers did say a few times, don't forget to stop and look up. And it was easy to kind of look at your feet and trudge on, and you had to look at your feet because the terrain was treacherous. Across these, you could hear these ice lakes move and breathe as well. It was eerie at times, crunching underneath you. It was maybe meters deep, but it was shifting around. So you had to watch your feet, but every so often you could have gone miles and not looked around and realised where you were. This is one of the last great untouched wildernesses on Earth, and you know, watching your own snowshoes through that would have been a mistake. But yeah, it was just vast and open and wild, and for large swathes of it there was nothing there apart from the horizon and the sun, which was, like I say, it was stunning but scary too. Yeah, seems ridiculous to call that a sprint, doesn't it? That felt good, mate. Actually, it was an interesting one for me because I think, obviously, as the whole thing went on, my confidence rose and rose, and I realised now I'm capable of this and more. And I felt strong. I wasn't carrying any niggles. You could see other people were little problems, feet problems, and pack carrying problems and things. People were starting to break down a bit physically, but I just felt stronger and stronger. So on the last day, there were elements of it. I did sprint. I hadn't really ran hard at all during any of it, but on the last day I did. They gifted us a surprise. We didn't know there was a big hill after about the first 3 kilometres, I think, maybe 2 or 3, and it was a big bastard of a gradient, you know, and enough to make you go, oh no. And I shucked off my snowshoes and got my poles on and normalised my flat pace right on that hill and kept it for the whole thing. Past 4 or 5 people, just felt great, and then was excited to run down the other side and found I was hip deep in snow and couldn't do it. But yeah, felt really good, mate, felt really good. And coming over the finish line, maybe I think 2.5 hours, I think the whole thing took me. And coming over the finish line was excellent. And if you've seen the footage, I happened to just pure coincidence, I ran through a class of school kids getting taken from one place to another on an outdoor excursion, and they joined at the back of me. So as I went over the finish line, I had all these kids behind me and cheering me on like a Rocky moment, so it was quite good. And then I got a beer, which is all I really wanted. I'd like another beer. Honestly, that was probably my first thought. This is not going to be enough. Nah, mate, I was elated. I was really, really pleased. I haven't been that. I don't think I've enjoyed that feeling for a long, long time. I know we did Nevis and you were there and all the rest of it, but there was not an anticlimax at all. What we did there was excellent, but we didn't quite meet the mark that we'd set ourselves, and that was disappointing to me. Not hugely, but it was disappointing. So this was for me an opportunity to kind of quash some demons after injuries. I posted up about it the other week because I saw a memory thing that I'd got over the course of 2 years. I'd broken my leg in 3 different places, 3 different times, re-break the knee, compartment syndrome, and the surgery that goes along with that, hypothermia on the spine race, and there was a couple other things I mentioned in there that just thrown me right off everything. And I got to a point where I just thought, right, well, clearly you're done. everything's just tits for you. And finding myself at a start line with the feeling that I wanted to do something again was a journey. But I still didn't, and I've discussed that on this video, I still didn't really know if I had it in me anymore, or if I was capable of these things. All the stats and all the data and all the performance metrics and all the rest of it leading up says, you know, I was going to kill it, you know, that I had all this, you know, I'm still athletic and still have a lot of capability, but in my head, it wasn't there. So getting over that finishing line, getting that beer, I knew I'd been wrong about the things that I'd been self-deprecating about, and that was a great feeling. The biggest take home for me is don't count yourself out. You know, that's been something that I had been doing maybe under the surface a little bit more than I'd realised, was saying, okay, you know, I have done these things in the past, but, you know, my time's gone or whatever. You know, I'm not by any stretch an old man, but I just told myself the injuries were enough, and then started to tell myself that maybe I couldn't do these things. Getting out there and to all intents and purposes, from the standard I'd set, smashing it has been a real eye-opener for me, because then you set the bar yourself every time, you know, okay, so if I keep telling myself I can't do something, then there's your answer, I won't be able to do it. Whereas, although there was that underlying anxiety and fear, there was always this flip side confidence that, yeah, if I push hard enough, I can probably do anything. And I was super stoked, and still am, to prove that there's much more opportunity there to succeed, and a lot of it's here.
So what's next for Johnny Payne?
I've got to stop drinking. I've come off that finish line and enjoyed the beers. Next is the Peruvian jungle, mate. So we've got same distance, give or take. I think it might be a little less, but it's give or take 250 kilometers through the Peruvian jungle, which is very different. Technical trail, clearly, moving through canopy, and I think there's quite a lot of undulation in terms of the gradient. So at certain points we'll be up where there's less air, and then obviously the heat and the humidity. So I don't think it could be any more different from the dry, freezing, and you know, everything that the Arctic was. The Peruvian jungle isn't, and vice versa. So at least it's a change.
Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, do you know, it's a good question, because see, beforehand, am I looking forward to that? No is the answer. That and the desert frighten me, because I'm so bad in the heat. But I think having gotten through the Arctic and done well with it, well within my own standards, I feel like there's, you know, just like we're saying about confidence, I feel like, okay, don't count yourself out just because of the heat, you'll adapt to that and all the rest of it. So I'm trying to kind of see it as an opportunity for a great adventure, and I think it will be. So I am looking forward to it, yeah.